All right. Let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Racha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. Let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai. The name of this one, pretty much. The name of this one pretty much is various topics dated, December 15th, I believe, 2024. I'm about to say 2025. It's 2024. Just bear with me 1 second. All right, cool. All right, so everything is up. All right, so various topics dated December 15th, 2024, the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. And pretty much, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. I was putting some scriptures together yesterday, based off of this one scripture that brothers keep bringing out in the book of Isaiah, the 31st chapter, and I, went through some other precepts, and Lord's will, put something together to, which I got something, got some precepts together. So Lord's will, if the Spirit allows, we get a chance to go through them, dealing with, the whole chariot thing and how Esau's technology is flesh technology and the Most High's technology is spiritual technology, which Esau has nothing to fight or combat against that. And there's many different things happening worldwide where the chariots are showing up. They're saying that they're drones, but some of those videos that they're showing look similar to what the chariots looked like when Vocab and them had turned the corner and G-Man came around the corner. In the sky, it was lights. It was somewhat lit up like that, but the ones that we saw were more what's the word I'm looking for? They were more like the ones you see in some of these videos are like kind of all over the place. The ones that we saw were like more organized. It was almost like they were lined up perfectly, lighting up. And these the ones that they're showing in the on these different videos, they're kind of lit all over the place. But it was something similar to that. The lights, the flashing lights, and they was kind of lighting up. It was many of them. And I just finished watching Elder Pastor's video where he mentioned where we were in front of one West School and that one individual showed up. And yep, he did whisper to me Hebrews 13. And then and like you said, the Elder Apostle Gabar was the closest one to us, and he didn't hear what Apostle Tara said to me. And the individual said, some entertain angels unawares. He actually said that, so I was actually there, so I remember that day very well. But nevertheless, when Vocab and them left and the light started lighting up, it looked similar to some of these videos that they're showing out there. Esau's nervous and he's scared. He doesn't want to fully come out and say what they are. So they'll blame it on all different type of stuff so that they don't have to explain. But it's getting to the point where they can't do anything about it. But before we get into those precepts that I got, I wanted to go and touch on something that I forget what day it was. It was this past week. Elder Apostle Tahar was going through a video that was posted up. I believe the first brother that posted it up was the Elder Karatazaba from the Baltimore camp, the head of the Baltimore camp, where he was speaking about, it was either him or one of the other brothers. I believe it might have been him, and other brothers jumped all over it, where you had, Deacon Nathan or Ethan Hawk spoke about, and it's how the Sabatu, right? He says Sabatu. It sounded like he said Sabatu, but I did some research into it and I found out it was a little different um, pronunciation. It was similar to it, so I just kind of wanted to just highlight that because the Sabatu, which is Assyrian for pretty much for Sabbath, but the thing is that when you go to the word Sabatu, right, which we have here, the word in the Bible is Sabbat, which is the 11th month of the Hebrew year, extending from the new moon of February to that of March, because the way that calculations are made is from one new moon to the other. That's why I said the new moon of February to that of March. Now, in Esau's calendar, sometimes you'll have a month, maybe let's say like May or August, or one of the longer months, and then you'll have two new moons within that month. Well, it's not two new moons in one month. It's just the calculations of Esau are off. That's why it appears to be two new moons in one month, but they're actually separate new moons, separate from each other. All right. So the word Sabbat, new moon, it says the 11th month of the Hebrew year, extending from the new moon of February to that of March. And then it gives you a precept of Zechariah 1 and 7, which we're going to get. But before we go to that, it says here Assyrian Sabatu. So that's what it sounded like he said, Sabatu. But like I said, when I show you the other word, then you'll understand. Because this actually appears in the scriptures, the 11th month of the Hebrew year, which we're going to get. But before we go there, let's go to the word month, right? The word month, it says, among the Egyptians, the month of 30 days each was in use long before the time of the Exodus and formed the basis of their calculations. Yeah, because, that is how you calculate days, right? Now, check this out. From the time of the institution of the Mosaic law, the month among the Jews was lunar. The cycle of religious feasts depend on the moon. The commencement of a month was determined by the observation of the new moon. See, the commencement of a month was determined by the observation of the new moon. The number of months in the year was actually 12, 1 Kings 4, 7, 1 Chronicles 27, 1 through 15. I'm going to get some of those precepts. But every third year, an additional month via Dar was inserted so as to make the month coincide with the seasons. The Hebrews and Phoenicians had no word for month save moon, right? Because the word moon and month is synonymous with each other. Let's give you a precept and then we'll come back. All right, let's go to the book of Ecclesiasticus or the book of Sirach, chapter 43. All right. For you that don't know, you students that have been students and teachers that have been learning for a while, you already know this stuff. I started 6. I started 5. Great is Yahweh, by Shem Yahushua that made it, and that his commandment runneth hastily. That's dealing with the sun. He made the moon also to serve in her season. Why? Because from the moon comes, the dictation of time, the commencement of the month. How to keep track, because this is the reason why when you look up into the heavens at night and you see the moon, it has different phases. The moon is the only one that changes in different phases because the moon is what dictates time. All right. Now, when you read in Genesis, the first chapter, it says, in the evening and the morning were the first day, and the evening and the morning were the second day, and the evening and the morning were the third day, because the day starts in the evening at night. And that's what the moon is for. The moon is the pretty much like the forerunner, for lack of better words, to dictate time. It says in a season for a declaration of time. See, signs, seasons, days, and years. You could read Genesis 1 and 14 for that. And a sign of the world, right? Because there's also other signs within the moon itself that, dictate, future events. It says from the moon is a sign of feasts, as we're going to get another precept in the book of Psalms when we get around to it. A light that decreaseth in her perfection, because the middle of the month is where the moon is the highest at, which is called the full moon. And when we go to the other word, you'll see, a little bit clearer. So from the moon is a sign of feasts. The feast of the Lord, when you go to Leviticus 23. The Passover, Feast of Tabernacles, they fall on the 15th or 14th day at evening, which is the 15th day of the month, which is the middle of the month, which are the new moons. See, and this is what these individuals at IUIC are not trying to touch on. No, they're not trying to. They're deceiving the people into thinking that the new moon comes in the middle of the month, what is called the full moon. No, it comes in. It's a what they call a dark moon or a dimly lit moon, and then it starts to grow, and that's why you have the different phases. You have the first quarter, the second quarter. Which the second quarter is the full moon. You have the third quarter when it starts to wane, and then you have when it starts going back into the cycle of the new moon or the new month, and that's how you dictate time. It says from the moon is a sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in her perfection, because in the middle of the month, at the full moon, that's when it starts to decrease. For what? To let us know that the new month is coming in, right? It says the month is called after her name. When you look up the word moon, right, or you look up the word month, they are synonymous with each other. The word month comes from the word moon. It says the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, right? Why? Because when the moon is dimly lit or not lit, what they call the dark moon, the light starts to grow, because that is the reset or the beginning stage of the moon when it's so-called dark, and then it starts to grow. That's why you see a little sliver, and then you see more of a sliver, and as the first week comes by, you see it is a crescent moon. That's the quarter moon. Then you see the half moon, so on and so forth. You see the full moon. By the time that the moon gets into the phase of the full moon, that is the middle of the month, which is the sign of feast, because most of the feast days took place around that time, like the Passover, the Feast of Tabernacles. You had another feast that came in around that time, which is Purim, which is, the 14th and the 15th day, which is around the time of the new moon. I'm sorry, the time of the full moon. That was a slip of the tongue, but not from the heart. So as the month is called after her name, increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. So when we go back to the word month, right, it says there the Hebrews and Phoenicians had no word for month save moon, and only saved their calendar from becoming vague like that of the Muslims by the interpolation of an additional month. There is no evidence at all that they ever used a true solar year such as the Egyptians possess. The latter had 12 months of 30 days and 5 epagomenic or odd days. All right, so it goes into a whole history of that. But you get the point. The point is that the cycle of the religious feasts depend on the moon. The commencement of a month was determined by the observation of the new moon. See, and when you go to the book of First Samuel, it's either First Samuel or Second Samuel, the 20th chapter. It tells you that the new moon is the first day of the month. Then it said the next day was the second day of the month. All right, so let's check out some of these precepts here. Let's go real quick to First Kings. Let me see what that says. First Kings, what is it? First Kings 4 and 7. Let's just see what that says. First Kings 4 and 7. And Solomon had 12 officers over all Israel, which provided victuals for the king and his household, each man his month in a year made provisions, right? Because you had 12 months, 12 moons, which make up a year. So you had a man that would be there, for every month. Just like you have something called the zodiac, which is also in the scriptures. See, Esau uses it for wickedness nowadays. And there's a precept that came to mind that just escaped my mind. And Solomon had 12 officers over. Okay, let's go to Second Chronicles chapter. It's either Second Chronicles or First Chronicles, chapter 12. Yep, it's First Chronicles. So let's go to First Chronicles chapter 12. That's where you had lookouts, so to speak, which you had the tribe of Issachar. They were the lookouts for the time. They were the timekeepers. First Chronicles 12:31, and of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, see, to know what Israel ought to do, the heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment. That's why you had the so-called Mexican of the tribe of Issachar that had that calendar. What was the name of that calendar? Um, I can't remember the name of the calendar, but they had a calendar out because they were the ancient timekeepers. All right, and this scripture lets you know that they had the understanding of the times, and that's why you had 200 of them, because one man or three men or five men or 12 men can't keep an eye on everything all the time. So you had to have a group of them that took turns, and they all were experts in watching the time, because that's how our calendar was calculated, by the watching of the moon. Okay, so anybody else that tells you different is a liar, and the truth is not in them. Let's see what the other scripture is. First Chronicles 27. We're not gonna go there because it's you could go there. First Chronicles 27 1-15 to let about the number of months in the year was usually 12. First Kings 4 and 7, First Chronicles 27 1-15. All right, so going back to the word Shabbat, right, or Sabbatu, right, which goes back to the Hebrew um, um, Sabbath, which is the day of rest, is the 11th month of the Hebrew year, extending from the new moon of February to that of March. That's what they're saying here. Now, when you go to Zechariah, right, chapter 1 and 7, upon the 4 and 20th day of the 11th month, which is the month Sabbat, which goes to the word Shabbat or Shabbat, which is Assyrian Sabbatu. In the second year of Darius came the word of the Lord unto Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo, the prophet, saying. So let's go to this word Sabbat, and you see there has the word there Shabbat, and that's where the Assyrian word is Shabbat. All right, Sabbat Arad, 11th month in the post-exilic Jewish calendar, corresponding to January or February. It all depends on the calculations of the moon. It says the 11th month of the Hebrew year, from the new moon of February to that of March. All right, that's what they're telling you. But nevertheless, it's the 11th month, and it's from moon to moon. That's how you calculate a month, from moon to moon. Now, like I said, he said Sabatu. That's what it sounded like. But when I did the research, it wasn't the word Sabatu, but the word Sapatum. I don't know if it was just the way he said it, that just sounded like he says Sabatu. But Sabatum, right, is 15th day of the month. See, period of 15 days. This is the Akkadian or the Assyrian word Sabatum for the middle of the month. 15th day of the month, period of 15 days. It says a fortnight. Now, what is a fortnight? A fortnight is a period of 14 days or 2 weeks. All right, you can look up fortnight here. Fortnight, it says a period of 2 weeks, used after the name of a day to indicate that something will take place 2 weeks after that day. So it says the final will take place on Saturday fortnight. So in other words, Saturday fortnight would be 2 weeks from Saturday. All right, so this word Sapatum was used to speak of the middle of the month, which is what? The new moon. I'm sorry, the full moon. Salakia. Once again, one that slippeth with his tongue, but not from his mouth. Psalms 81:3 says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, because when the moon was new, you would blow the trumpet to let Israel know that there was a congregation. You would come together, because the new moon was a Sabbath, but it was considered a feast day, but it was a Sabbath. All right. So whatever preparations you needed to make that day before the moon came in, before the new moon came in, you would make it, and then at night you would eat your food. Right? It says, in the time appointed on our solemn feast days, and this is the scripture that got them tripped up, because when you look up the word time appointed, is the word kasa'ah or kasa, which says full moon. And this is what trips them up, because when you read it in the King James, it sounds like it's talking about the same thing, but it's not. This is why you have to go to the Hebrew. This is why you have to go to the to the um to the different translations. And how did Bishop Nathaniel and them know that this word here meant, the full moon? It doesn't say full moon in the King James. What did they do? Did they go to the Hebrew? So they go to the Hebrew when it's convenient? I don't know. Inquiring minds want to know. Let's see, the full moon. See, the full moon is the first day of the full moon, also the whole time of the full moon. And so it is often used by from the whole moon. Says the etymology is not clear to me, for it is not satisfactory to say that it is so called from the whole moon being when then covered with light from the root. Well, it means full moon. And when you look at the full moon, it's reason why it's called the full moon is because it's completely lit. Now, when you go to the different Bible translations, it gives you, because see, here it says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on the solemn feast day, on our solemn feast day. So it sounds like it's talking about the new moon being the time appointed or the full moon, but it's not. When you go to the NLT, blow the ram's horn at noon at new moon and again at full moon to call a festival. And that's what it is. It's two times when you will blow it. You will blow it during the time of the new moon to let Jake know that the new month is starting. That was Issachar's job. And then again, in the middle of the month, you would blow it again, because it was a time of the gathering for these feasts, such as the Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the same night. Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread starts the same night. You had the Feast of Tabernacles, and later on you had the Feast of Purim, which fell around the 14th and the 15th day of the month, so on and so forth. All right. It says, and again at full moon to call a festival. NIV says, sound the ram's horn at the new moon and when the moon is full on the day of our festival. All right. So there's distinction in the two. The new moon is not the full moon. The full moon is not the new moon. The full moon is the middle of the month. The new moon is the beginning of the month. We showed you that. If you can't get it, then I don't know what to tell you. When you go to 1 Samuel chapter 20, and just bear with me while I get the verse. Right. It says 1 Samuel 20:24. So David had hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, so this is the day of the new moon, the king sat him down to eat meat, King Saul. And the king sat upon his seat, and as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. This is on the new moon. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul spake nothing, not anything that day, for he thought something had befallen him. He is not clean, surely he is not clean. That's why he didn't show up for the new moon, which is the first day of the month. And it came to pass on the morrow, meaning the very next day after the new moon, which was the second day of the month. So the new moon is the beginning of the calculation of the month. Because these individuals that say that Friday night to Saturday night is a Sabbath, what is the beginning? What is the first count? What are you gonna say? Sunday? According to who? Sunday didn't don't exist in the scriptures. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's not in the Bible. That came later during the Julian calendar, and later, translated into the Gregorian calendar. We didn't have days of because right there it didn't say, well, Monday, which is the second day of the month. No, it said the second day of the month, the first day of the week, the second day of the week, the fifth month, the 10th month, the 12th month. All right. So the new moon is the first day of the month, which is a Sabbath, and they're finally starting to acknowledge that the new moon is a Sabbath, pursuant to Amos 8:5. But it is also it is a Sabbath, and it is also the count for the rest of the Sabbaths. So the first day, new moon, Sabbath. 6 days of work. Then the seventh day, which is another Sabbath, would be the eighth day. So the first day, the eighth day, then you had the 15th day, the 22nd day, and by the time the moon went around the cycle, it was around the 29th day or so, and that's when everything was being reset, so to speak. And that's the reason why the moon changes like that, because it was a guide for us. It was our calendar to guide us on how to keep track of time. Let's see, the brother put Psalms 104:19. He appointed the moon for seasons. The sun knoweth his going down. Yeah, beautiful. So that's what it was set up for: signs, seasons, days, and years. All right. So I just wanted to share that with you. Like I said, when Deacon Nathan said what he said it sounded like he said Sabbatu, but when I looked it up, Sabbatu is the 11th month of the Hebrew year, which does mean Sabbath, from one new moon to another. But the word that meant, middle of the month, or pretty much like the full moon, is the word Sabbatum. So I don't know if it just his pronunciation or what the case was. And you have it here, Sabbatum, right? It says the 15th day of the month, period of 15 days, or fortnight. A fortnight is a period of 2 weeks. So fortnight meaning the middle of the month, the new moon. I'm sorry, the full moon. Satan keep making me say that. The full moon, which is the middle of the month. And anybody out there, any scholar, any astrologer, anybody that's worth their weight in salt, they'll tell you, that the full moon it falls on the middle of the month, and that's how you kept. The new moon is the first day of the month, which dictates the rest. So how can the new moon be the full moon if the Sabbath falls on the 14th day at evening, which is the 15th day of the month, and the new moon is the first day of the month? How does that work? Anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. So you got these. I put this here in the description box. This Sabbat, right, from the Bible study tools, and then you could click on month, and it'll give you month, and it tells you, about the month, and what it means, and how it pretty much, the Hebrews didn't have a word for month. The only word that we have for month was moon, because the moon or the month is called after the moon. All right. So let me get rid of these. And matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to end this one here. And then Lord's will, I'll come back and do another lesson based off of the other precepts that I have, that way, just to keep it. And then I'll just probably change the title of this video here, um, to reflect more so on the, the Sapatum, or, I reworded some other way. All right. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say shalom.